Let me ask you a question. Has earning money ever felt so hard? I've been there. There were times in my life when I jumped through barriers and mountains just to make ends meet. Of all the money in the world, the first $100,000 is the hardest money you'll ever make, but once you cross it, everything changes. That number might feel far away right now. Maybe you're living paycheck to paycheck. Maybe you're constantly juggling bills, waiting for the next payday just to breathe. Maybe the thought of saving six figures feels impossible. And you're not alone. Most people never get there. Not because they don't want to, but because they don't have a system. They believe if they just earn more money, everything will fix itself. But then a raise comes, expenses go up, and the cycle continues. That's why the first 100,000 is so powerful. It's the line that separates constant stress from real freedom. It's the point where your money starts working for you instead of against you. Think about the difference. On one side, you're stuck in survival mode. You're watching every dollar. An unexpected car repair feels like a financial earthquake. A medical bill knocks you back months, maybe years. You lie awake at night wondering if you'll ever get ahead. On the other side, you have a cushion. You don't panic when your tire blows out. You don't stress when your kid needs braces. You don't have to choose between paying rent and buying groceries. You have money set aside, and that money gives you peace of mind. Reaching the first $100K gives you something more than numbers in an account. It gives you confidence. Confidence that you're no longer just surviving. Confidence that you can handle what life throws at you. Confidence that your future is in your hands, not in someone else's. The emotional relief is real. When you hit that milestone, you stop worrying about every small decision. You don't stress about whether you can afford to grab dinner with friends. You don't feel guilty about buying something you enjoy, because you know the foundation is already in place. That's the difference between constantly reacting to money and being in control of it. And that control is what sets you on the path to true wealth. Most people never feel that shift. They stay stuck in the cycle. But you don't have to. The path to your first $100K is clear once you know how to take it. So how do you actually go from 0 to 6 figures saved? Stick around, because I'm going to give you a step-by-step playbook. The first $100,000 is not just a number. It's a turning point. It's the line in the sand that separates stress from security. Once you cross it, everything changes. Your money stops being something you constantly chase. It starts working for you. Think about how most of us grow up. We're told to study hard, get a good job, and earn more money. But here's the truth. You can be making six figures a year and still feel broke. In fact, surveys show that 1 in 3 households earning between $100,000 and $150,000 in the US still worry about paying their bills. How is that possible? Because the way you feel about money isn't just about how much you make. It's about what you do with it. Picture two friends. One makes $60,000 a year working as a teacher in Ohio. The other makes $150,000 working in tech in California. The teacher lives in a modest home, drives a used Honda, and contributes 15% of her income to a 401k and Roth IRA. She's not flashy, but she's steadily building wealth. The tech worker, on the other hand, just leased a new Tesla, pays $3,000 a month for a San Francisco apartment, and spends freely on dinners out. Even with a much higher income, the tech worker is constantly stressed about credit card bills. This is the difference. The first $100,000 isn't about how much you make. It's about discipline. It's about creating a system where you keep more than you spend. Once you save and invest that first $100,000, you finally get to experience compounding. Compounding is simple but powerful. It's your money making money, and then that new money makes even more money. Let's make it real with numbers. If you invest $600 a month, and you earn a 7% return, in 10 years you'll have just over $102,000. Here's the wild part. You only contributed $72,000 yourself. That extra $30,000 came from your money working for you. This is where the game changes. At the beginning, it feels slow. You put in money, you save, you invest. It feels like nothing is happening. But once you cross that 100,000 mark, your investments start growing faster than your paycheck. You're no longer the only one working. Your money is working alongside you. Think of it like pushing a car. At first, it takes all your strength to get it rolling. But once the car starts moving, momentum carries it forward with less effort. That's what compounding does for your money. Let's take another example. Imagine you're 30 years old, and you've just reached your first $100K. You keep investing consistently, maybe $1,000 a month, and your investments grow at around 7% per year. By the time you hit $1 million, Nearly 70% of that money will have come from compounding returns, not from your paycheck. That means the majority of your wealth is created by time and consistency, not by hustling harder at your job. Here's why this matters so much in North America. Housing, healthcare, and education costs have been rising faster than wages for decades. If you only rely on your paycheck, you'll always feel like you're behind. But if you can cross that $100K threshold, you'll have an engine running in the background that doesn't depend on whether you get a raise this year or not. When you have 100,000 saved, your perspective changes. Suddenly, you don't panic if your car breaks down. You don't stress over a surprise dental bill. You can take a vacation without guilt because you know you're still saving and investing. It's like a protective shield around your financial life. In the US, financial planners often talk about the moat that protects your castle. Your first 100,000 is the beginning of that moat. It's not the whole fortress, but it's enough to keep you safe from the everyday storms. Most people never get there because they believe they'll just make more money someday. They tell themselves, once I get a raise, I'll save, or once I make six figures, then I'll finally invest. But when that raise comes, they upgrade their lifestyle instead of their savings rate. The bigger paycheck doesn't solve the problem, it just gives them more ways to spend. The first 100,000 is proof. Proof that you can control your spending. Proof that you can invest consistently. Proof that you can build real financial freedom step by step. So if you've been wondering where to start, this is it. Your target is $100,000 saved and invested. It's not about becoming a millionaire overnight. It's about getting to the first major milestone that changes everything. And once you see that number sitting in your account, something powerful happens. You realize you're no longer just surviving. You're building. You're on the passive path to freedom. The first 100,000 is the hardest, but it's also the most important, because once you cross it, the money starts compounding. And when compounding takes over, the game is never the same again. That's the power of the first 100,000. Are you starting to see why chasing a higher paycheck alone isn't enough? Let's break down one of the biggest myths about money that holds people back. Most people believe that the answer to their money problems is simple. They say, if I just earned more money, I'd finally feel rich. If I just made six figures, everything would fall into place. If I just got that next promotion, I'd never stress about bills again. That's the myth. And it's one of the biggest reasons people never reach their first $100,000. Here's the reality. Earning more money is powerful, but income alone does not make you rich, because money is not just about what you earn, it's about what you keep. Let's take a real-world example. Imagine two neighbors. One is a doctor in Toronto, making $220,000 a year. The other is a public school teacher earning $65,000 a year. On paper, the doctor should be far ahead, but the doctor drives a brand new luxury SUV with a $900 monthly payment. She lives in a large home with a mortgage that eats up 40% of her take-home pay. She also takes 2 international vacations a year, each costing more than $10,000. Now look at the teacher. He drives a used Toyota Corolla, fully paid off. He rents a modest apartment for $1,200 a month. He eats out once a week, but mostly cooks at home. He invests 15% of his paycheck into his retirement account. Fast forward 10 years. The doctor has little savings because every dollar goes right back out the door. The teacher has over $120,000 invested, and his money is compounding quietly in the background. This is the myth at work. We confuse income with wealth. But wealth is not the number on your paycheck. Wealth is freedom. Wealth is options. Wealth is waking up on a Monday morning and knowing your bills are covered. Why do so many high earners still feel broke? It's lifestyle inflation. In North America, it's easy to get caught in the cycle of spending more as you earn more. You get a raise, you upgrade your car, you get a bonus, you buy a bigger house, your paycheck grows, but so do your expenses. Before you know it, you're still living paycheck to paycheck. It's not stupidity, it's psychology. When more money flows in, our brains immediately look for ways to spend it. We're bombarded with ads for bigger TVs, fancier kitchens, private schools, and dream vacations. And if everyone around you is doing it, you feel like you should too. But here's the secret. The people who quietly build wealth don't fall for that trap. They don't say, I need more income to be okay. They say, I need a system to manage what I already have. Let's talk about another example. A couple in Texas both make $45,000 a year. They decided early on to live on just one income and invest the other. It wasn't glamorous. They drove the same cars for a decade. They bought a small starter home and resisted the urge to upgrade. 10 years later, they had saved more than $200,000 and were on track to hit financial independence in their 40s. Compare that with another couple in the same city earning twice as much, but living in a gated community, paying for private schools, and carrying heavy credit card debt. The difference is clear. The system matters more than the salary. This is why I want you to let go of that myth. Yes, you can and should work on earning more. But don't fall into the trap of thinking a bigger paycheck will magically fix your money life. It won't. If you don't have a system, more income will just give you more opportunities to overspend. The first 100,000 is built not just on earning, but on consistency, on spending with intention, on choosing where your money goes. And that brings us to the real solution. It's not about chasing random raises or praying for a lottery ticket. It's about creating a system. A system that works whether you make $40K, $80K, or $150K. When you learn how to manage your money with a clear system, you take control. You stop guessing. You stop worrying. And you start building wealth with confidence. The myth says you need more income. The truth is, you need a plan. So how do you create a plan that actually works in real life? That's where the CEO system comes in. And it can completely change the way you manage money. The path to your first 100,000 isn't about luck. It's not about timing the stock market. And it's not about winning the lottery. It's about building a system that works for you every single month. A system that makes the right decisions automatically. A system that frees you from stressing over every dollar. I call it the CEO system. It stands for 3 simple steps. Cut costs. Earn more. Optimize. Let's break it down. C stands for cut costs. Now this is where most money advice goes off the rails. You've probably heard the same tips again and again. Stop buying lattes. Reuse your paper towels. Turn off the lights at 7 p.m. To save on electricity. But here's the thing. Nobody gets rich by skipping a $3 coffee. The goal isn't to cut everything. The goal is to cut ruthlessly on the things you don't care about, so you can spend extravagantly on the things you love. Imagine someone in New York who loves travel. They might cut out eating out 3 nights a week. They might ditch the fancy car and take the subway, but when it comes time for that trip to Italy, they spend freely and enjoy it without guilt. Or picture a family in Vancouver that loves sports. They don't care about having the latest iPhone. They don't care about designer clothes. But every year, they buy season tickets for hockey games. That's their version of a rich life. This is the beauty of cutting costs intentionally. You're not depriving yourself. You're just choosing what matters most. Now let's talk about the second step. E stands for earn more. This is the part most people overlook. Yes, cutting costs is helpful, but there's a limit to how much you can cut. There is no limit to how much you can earn. Earning more is not about filling out surveys for $3. It's about building the skill of earning. Notice I said skill. Earning more is something you can learn and practice. If you have a job, you can learn to negotiate a raise. In the US, research shows most people never even ask for one. In Canada, many employees accept their annual cost of living increase and stop there. But a single raise of $5,000 or $10,000 can add up to hundreds of thousands over your lifetime. Another way to earn more is through a side business. Think about your skills. Are you good at photography? Start offering weekend sessions. Do you know Excel or coding? Offer to help small businesses set up systems. Do you bake? Turn your kitchen hobby into a small income stream. For example, a friend in Chicago loved making custom cakes. She started by baking for friends and family. Within a year, she was earning an extra $1,200 a month just from weekend orders. That's over $14,000 a year, money she could invest while still enjoying her main career. Remember, earning more is a skill, and skills compound just like money. Once you learn how to make an extra $1,000, you can scale that to $2,000, then $5,000, and beyond. Now let's move to the third step. O stands for optimize. Optimization is about making your money flow automatically. When you get your paycheck, you shouldn't be logging in every day to move money around. You shouldn't be manually paying bills at midnight. Instead, you build an automation flow. Your paycheck comes in. A portion automatically goes to savings. Another portion flows directly into your investments. Your bills are paid without you lifting a finger, and what's left is yours to spend guilt-free. This is powerful, because once the system is set, you don't have to rely on willpower. You don't have to stress over budgeting apps that take hours each week. The money just moves like water. It flows where it needs to go. In the US, you can set up direct deposit to send money straight into a high-yield savings account or a 401k. In Canada, you can automatically fund your TFSA or RRSP with every paycheck. Most banks let you schedule these transfers right in their app. Here's a practical example. A young professional in Denver earns $70,000 a year. He sets his paycheck to split into 3 accounts. 60% goes to fixed costs like rent, groceries, and utilities. 20% goes to savings and investments. The last 20% goes to guilt-free spending. He doesn't have to think about it. He can grab tacos with friends or buy concert tickets knowing his future is already taken care of. That's the magic of the CEO system. It's not about controlling every penny. It's about creating a structure that works for you. One that runs in the background so you can focus on living. When you cut costs where it doesn't matter, earn more where you can, and optimize your money flow, you create a powerful wealth engine. And once that engine is running, you don't have to stress every time you buy groceries or plan a vacation. You know the important stuff is already handled. Now that you understand the CEO system, the question is simple. How do you use it to grow your money automatically, year after year without even noticing the effort? That's where one small but powerful habit comes in. It's called the December rule. Every December, most people are focused on the holidays. They're thinking about gifts, family gatherings, and maybe a trip somewhere warm. But there's a quiet wealth habit you can start every December that can change your entire financial future. It's called the December rule. And it's one of the simplest, most powerful money moves you can make. Here's how it works. Take whatever percentage of your income you're currently investing. Maybe it's 5%. Maybe it's 10%. Every December, increase that percentage by just 1%. That's it. It doesn't sound like much. And that's the point. 1% is so small that you won't feel it in your day-to-day spending. If you make $60,000 a year, that's about $50 a month. That's one dinner out. That's one pair of shoes you didn't really need. It's painless. But here's the beauty. That 1% builds on itself year after year. If you're at 10% this year, next December you bump it to 11%. The following year, 12%. And so on. Now imagine you're 25 years old and making $50,000 a year. You start by investing 10%. That's $5,000 your first year. The next year, you bump it to 11%. That's $5,500. By the time you're 35, you're automatically investing 20% of your income without even noticing the change. This is what makes the December rule so powerful. You're not trying to overhaul your lifestyle overnight. You're making small, gradual adjustments that add up to hundreds of thousands of dollars over time. Let's put numbers to it. Say you earn $70,000 today. You invest 10%, which is $7,000 a year. Every December, you increase that by 1%. So the next year, you invest $7,700. The year after that, $8,400. Over 20 years, with a 7% return, you could have more than $400,000 invested. Now picture a real-life scenario. A young professional in Dallas gets a $5,000 raise at the end of the year. Instead of upgrading to a new car, he sets up his December rule and adds 1% more to his retirement account. It's automatic. He still enjoys his life, but now he's investing thousands more each year. By the time he's 50, those small increases have grown into a portfolio that covers decades of freedom. This strategy works beautifully in North America because so many employers offer retirement accounts like 401(k)s in the US or RRSPs in Canada. Many of these plans even let you set automatic contribution increases. You can literally schedule it once, and every December, your contributions go up without you lifting a finger. If your employer doesn't offer that feature, you can set a simple reminder on your calendar. On December 15th, open your payroll portal or your bank account and adjust your savings by 1%. It takes 5 minutes, and then it's done for the whole year. This small habit can be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's not about making a massive sacrifice. It's about making wealth building automatic. By following the December rule, you'll quietly build momentum every year. You won't even feel it. But one day, you'll look at your account and realize you've crossed that 6-figure line. The December rule is proof that wealth doesn't come from stress. It comes from simple habits done consistently. Now you know how to save, invest, and build momentum. But here's the truth. All of that can fall apart if you don't protect yourself. Because the fastest way to lose your wealth isn't bad spending. It's an emergency you never planned for. That's why the next step is about building your financial moat. Imagine this. You're driving to work and your car suddenly breaks down. The mechanic tells you it's going to be a $2,000 repair. Most people panic. They reach for a credit card. And just like that, they're stuck paying interest at 20% or more. This is why you need a financial moat. A moat protects a castle from attack. Your financial moat protects your life from surprises. Your moat is your emergency fund. 3 to 6 months of living expenses, saved in cash, sitting in an account you can access anytime. When I say living expenses, I don't mean vacations or shopping, I mean the essentials. Rent or mortgage, utilities, groceries, car payment, insurance. The bills you need to survive month after month. If your monthly expenses are $3,000, then 3 months is $9,000. 6 months is $18,000. That's your first target. And here's my personal rule. Once you reach financial stability, aim for 12 months of living expenses in your emergency fund. That's a full year of freedom, a year to take a break, a year to figure things out, a year where you don't have to panic if something goes wrong. Where should you keep this money? Not in the stock market, not in crypto, not in real estate. Your emergency fund should never be invested. It belongs in a high-yield savings account. In the US, banks like Ally, Marcus, and Capital One offer accounts that pay interest while keeping your money safe. In Canada, options like EQ Bank or Tangerine offer the same. You can access your money instantly if you need it. This is not about maximizing returns, it's about safety. When your furnace breaks in the middle of a Minnesota winter, you don't want to wait 3 days for a stock trade to settle. You want the money today. Now let's talk about peace of mind. There's something powerful about knowing you could stop working for 6 months and still be okay. It changes the way you think. It lowers stress. It gives you confidence to take risks in your career. Think about a Canadian mom in Calgary. She has 3 kids and a mortgage. When her company downsizes, she gets laid off. But she has 9 months of living expenses saved in her emergency fund. Instead of panicking, she uses that time to find a better job that actually pays more. Her emergency fund wasn't just money, it was freedom. Or picture a family in Florida. A hurricane hits and damages their roof. Insurance covers most of it, but they still owe $5,000. Because they have an emergency fund, they pay it immediately. No debt, no stress. Just a temporary setback. This is what a financial moat does. It doesn't make you rich, but it keeps you safe, and safety is the foundation of building wealth. The first 100,000 is about building momentum. But without a moat, one bad moment can wipe away years of progress. So before you chase investments or side hustles, build your emergency fund, 3 to 6 months first. Then, if you want even more security, go for 12. Once that money is sitting safely in your account, you can invest aggressively because now you know, no matter what happens, you're protected. When you have your moat in place, you can finally shift your focus, you can stop worrying about disasters, and you can start thinking about how to grow your wealth for the long run. That's when index funds and target date funds become your best friend. When it comes to growing your wealth, there are endless options. Real estate, stocks, crypto, starting a business. Everyone has an opinion, but if your goal is to hit that first $100,000, you don't need to get fancy. You don't need to chase every trend. You don't need 40 different investments. What you need are simple, proven tools. That's why I focus on index funds and target date funds. Let's start with index funds. An index fund is just a basket of stocks. Instead of buying one company, you buy a little piece of many companies at once. Think of the S&P 500. That's 500 of the biggest companies in America. Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Coca-Cola, Costco. By owning the index, you own a slice of all of them. Why is this powerful? Because over 80% of professional money managers fail to beat index funds. These are people with teams, data, and resources, and they still lose to the simple index. That means you don't need to be a Wall Street genius. You don't need to read charts every morning. You can invest in index funds and know that over decades, you'll come out ahead of most investors. Now let's talk about target date funds. These are like the set it and forget it version of investing. You pick a fund based on the year you plan to retire. If you're 30 years old and want to retire around 2060, you'd pick a 2060 target date fund. The fund automatically invests in a mix of stocks and bonds. As you get closer to retirement, it shifts to become more conservative. That means when you're young, it's heavy on stocks for growth. When you're older, it shifts to safer investments to protect your wealth, and you don't have to lift a finger. The fund does the work for you. Here's the key to both index funds and target date funds. They are low cost. Costs matter more than most people realize. If you invest $50,000 at age 30 and add $1,000 a month, after 35 years you could have millions. But here's the catch. If you pay a 1% management fee instead of a 0.2% fee, you could lose nearly $400,000 to fees over your lifetime. That's $400,000 gone. Not because of a bad investment, not because of a market crash, simply because of fees. That's why I always focus on keeping costs low. Index funds and target date funds from providers like Vanguard, Fidelity, Schwab, or iShares in Canada are excellent options. They're simple, they're accessible, and they let your money grow without you babysitting it every day. Now let's address something important. You don't need to go all in on the latest hype. In North America, it's easy to get caught up in crypto, meme stocks, or flipping houses. We all saw what happened with GameStop and AMC 5 get-rich-quick lines. Some people made money. Most people lost money. Chasing quick wins is exciting, but it's not how real wealth is built. The wealthiest people in America didn't get there by gambling. They got there by owning businesses, investing steadily, and letting time do the heavy lifting. A simple example. If you had invested $10,000 into the S&P 500 in 1990, today it would be worth over $100,000. No day trading, no chasing hype, just time and consistency. And the best part? You don't need to watch the stock market every day. You don't need to stress over every headline. With index funds and target date funds, you can set your system, walk away, and live your life. This is where the passive path truly shines. Because the whole point is to stop working for every dollar. You want your money to work while you sleep. And that's exactly what these investments allow you to do. Now you have the system. You know how to cut costs. You know how to earn more. You know how to optimize your finances. You know about the December rule. You've built your emergency fund. And you're investing in simple, low-cost funds. At this point, you're well on your way to your first 100,000. But there's still a danger. Because even with the best plan, most people fall into traps that steal their wealth. And if you don't see them coming, they can undo all your progress. Let's talk about the 4 wealth traps you need to avoid at all costs. The road to $100,000 is not a straight line. There are detours, there are distractions, and there are traps. These traps look harmless at first. Some even look attractive. But they can quietly drain your money and your energy until you feel stuck again. The first trap is the get-rich-quick culture. Open your phone and you'll see it everywhere. People bragging about day trading wins, videos promising overnight success with crypto, ads telling you to buy real estate with zero money down. Here's the problem. These schemes are designed to get you excited, not wealthy. Yes, someone might make a quick profit, but most people lose. Remember the GameStop mania in 2021? Some traders made millions. But for every person who cashed out at the top, thousands bought late and lost everything. In the US and Canada, regulators reported that many retail investors sold at a loss after the hype ended. Real wealth is not built overnight. It is built over time. It is built with discipline. It is built with systems. The second trap is toxic frugality. This is when saving money turns into an obsession. You know the type? They brag about reusing tea bags 5 times. They drive 20 minutes across town to save 2 cents per gallon on gas. They eat bland meals every day just to shave a few dollars off their budget. Sure, they save money, but they're not living a rich life, and in many cases, they're missing the big wins. Think about someone in Boston making $90,000 a year. She refuses to spend $3 on coffee. She avoids vacations. She cuts her own hair to save $30, but she never negotiates her salary. She never invests. She's focused on pennies while ignoring the thousands of dollars she could earn with a simple raise or automatic investment plan. You don't need to live a life of deprivation to build wealth. You need to cut what doesn't matter and spend on what you love. That's what keeps you consistent for decades. The third trap is the I missed my chance mindset. 5 missed chance lines. This one keeps so many people stuck. They say, I should have started investing when I was 20. Or, if only I bought Apple stock back in the 90s. That thinking kills progress. Yes, starting early helps, but it's never too late to begin. Take the story of a 45-year-old nurse in Michigan. She had no savings and felt hopeless. But she started small. She invested $500 a month into her retirement account. Over 20 years, with steady returns, she built more than $300,000. Was it $1 million? No. But it was enough to give her peace of mind and flexibility in her 60s. The worst thing you can do is let regret stop you. Don't make the same mistake twice. Start today. The fourth trap is the optimization spiral. This one is tricky because it feels productive. It looks like you're doing something smart, but in reality, it's just a distraction. Here's what it looks like. You spend hours comparing credit cards to find one that gives an extra 0.5% in rewards. You switch banks every 6 months to chase a tiny interest bonus. You download 5 different budgeting apps and spend more time tweaking categories than actually saving money. In Silicon Valley, there are people who optimize everything. They optimize their workouts, they optimize their diets, they optimize their sleep, and they try to optimize their finances down to the decimal point. But here's the truth. Switching banks for a 0.1% increase might save you $20 a year. Negotiating a raise could add $5,000 a year to your income. Which one is worth more? This trap steals your focus from the big wins. It keeps you busy, but not wealthy. So let's put these 4 traps together. 1. Chasing get-rich-quick schemes. 2. Falling into toxic frugality. 3. Believing you missed your chance. 4. Obsessing over tiny optimizations. If you can avoid these traps, your system will actually work. Your money will grow, and you'll stay focused on what truly matters. Now you know the traps to avoid. But what's the real prize at the end of this journey? It's not just the number in your account, it's something much bigger. It's the freedom to design your rich life. What is all this work really for? Why save? Why invest? Why focus so much on hitting that first $100,000? Because money is not the goal. Money is a tool. The real goal is freedom. The real goal is choice. The real goal is building your rich life. A rich life doesn't look the same for everyone. For some, it means traveling across North America in an RV. For others, it means owning a cozy home where family can gather every holiday. For some, it's the ability to support aging parents without stress. For others, it's leaving a corporate job to start a business they actually care about. The point is this: your rich life is personal. It's not about what your neighbor is doing. It's not about keeping up with Instagram. It's about what makes you feel alive. In the United States, many people dream of financial independence so they can leave their 9-to-5 jobs. In Canada, some people dream of paying off their mortgage early and spending summers at a lakeside cabin. These are both valid dreams, and they both start with the same foundation: that first $100,000. Once you build your system, once you set your automation, once you hit that milestone, something changes. You realize you don't have to stress about money every single day. You can actually enjoy the things you love. Think about this. You love dining out at your favorite restaurant in Chicago. You set your finances up so your bills and investments are already covered. When you sit down for dinner, you don't have to feel guilty. You can order the steak. You can enjoy the glass of wine, because you know your future is secure. Or maybe you're a young parent in Toronto. Your rich life might mean sending your kids to summer camp every year. You don't have to stress about the cost. You've built your system to handle it. You get to see your kids thrive. This is what building wealth is really about. It's not just about numbers on a spreadsheet. It's about designing a life that feels good today and tomorrow. Here's the mistake most people make. They think they need to sacrifice happiness today for a better future. They believe they can't enjoy anything until they've saved millions. That's not true. You can start living your rich life now. You can choose to spend on what you love. You can choose to cut what doesn't matter. You can choose to build a system that lets you have both joy today and freedom tomorrow. And here's the best part. Your rich life isn't just about you. When you're financially secure, you can help others. You can donate to causes you believe in. You can help your niece pay for college. You can treat your parents to a vacation. Wealth gives you the ability to be generous, and generosity creates a deeper kind of wealth. The kind that goes beyond numbers. The kind that leaves a legacy. The first 100,000 is your proof of concept. It's the foundation. But it's not the end. It's just the beginning. So now the big question is clear. How do you put everything together? How do you take all these principles and turn them into one roadmap you can actually follow? Let's lay out the exact steps to reach your first 100,000. Here is the next part of the script, Section 10. The first $100K roadmap, approximately 1,200 words. Now it's time to put everything into one simple roadmap. This is the playbook that will take you from $0 to $100,000. Follow it step by step and you'll see the progress build year after year. Step 1. Know your numbers. You can't improve what you don't track. Sit down with a notebook, a spreadsheet, or a simple app. Write down exactly how much you earn after taxes. Write down your fixed costs, like rent, utilities, car payments, groceries. Write down your debt balances. Write down how much you're currently saving or investing. For most people, this is the first time they've ever seen all the numbers in one place. And yes, it can feel overwhelming, but this step alone will put you ahead of most people. Step 2. Pay off high-interest debt. Credit card debt is like carrying a 200-pound backpack while trying to run a marathon. Every step forward is slowed down. If your debt has an interest rate of 20% or more, it wipes out the returns from any investment 5 debt lines. That means even if you're investing, you're still losing ground. So before you think about index funds or side hustles, pay off that debt. Know the exact month and year your debt will be gone. Set up automatic payments. Watch that number shrink. Step 3. Build your emergency fund. Start with 3 months of living expenses. Then build to 6. Eventually aim for 12 if you want maximum peace of mind. Keep it in a high-yield savings account, not in the stock market. 5 emergency fund lines. This is your moat. It protects you when life throws a curveball. Step 4. Automate your money. Remember the CEO system. Set up direct deposit so your money flows automatically. A percentage to your checking account for bills and essentials. A percentage to savings. A percentage to investments. Whatever's left is yours to spend guilt-free. When your system is automated, you don't need to think about money every day. You can focus on your life. Step 5. Start investing with the December rule. Pick a base percentage that feels manageable today. Maybe it's 10%. Every December, increase it by 1%. It's small enough that you won't notice, but powerful enough to transform your future. By your 30s and 40s, you'll be investing more than you ever thought possible. Step 6. Choose simple investments. Stick with index funds or target date funds. They're low cost. They're diversified. They let your money grow without constant stress. You don't need to time the market. You don't need to pick individual stocks. You just need to stay consistent. Step 7. Avoid the traps. Don't chase get-rich-quick schemes. Don't obsess over skipping small expenses while ignoring the big wins. Don't believe you've missed your chance. Don't get lost in endless optimization. Stay focused on the system. Now let's put this into a timeline. Year 1. Track your money. Pay down high-interest debt. Start your first emergency savings. Year 2. Build momentum. Get a raise or start a side hustle. Increase savings by 1%. Year 3. Continue cutting costs that don't matter. Add more to investments. Keep building your emergency fund. Years 4 to 7. Hit that $100,000 mark. Watch compounding kick in. Years 8 and beyond. Let your money do the heavy lifting while you design your rich life. This roadmap is simple. It's not glamorous. It doesn't involve quick wins or risky bets, but it works. It's the same system I've used. It's the same system thousands of people have used. It's the system that can take you from $0 to $100,000. And once you're there, you'll see something amazing. The game changes completely. You're no longer fighting uphill. You've got momentum on your side. So let's talk about what happens once you cross that line. What life looks like beyond the first 100,000. Crossing the first 100,000 is like climbing to the top of a steep hill. The journey up feels slow. Every dollar saved feels like a struggle. But once you reach the top, the view changes, and gravity starts working in your favor. Here's why. At the beginning, most of your growth comes from your contributions. You're putting in $500 or $1,000 a month. That's the fuel. But once you hit 6 figures, compounding takes over. Remember the math. By the time you reach $1 million, nearly 70% of your growth comes from compounding, not from your paycheck. 5 compounding lines. That means the hardest part is behind you. The first 100,000 is the proof. The rest becomes easier. Let's see this in real numbers. Imagine you invest $100,000 at age 30. You leave it alone and let it grow at 7% per year. By age 60, without adding another dollar, that 100,000 grows to more than 760,000. That's the snowball effect. Now picture adding just $1,000 a month along the way. By the time you're 60, you don't just have 760,000, you have well over $1 million. That's the power of time. Here's another example from everyday life. Think about a Canadian couple in their mid-30s. They've saved their first 100,000 in a mix of RRSPs and TFSAs. They keep contributing each month. At first, they feel like progress is slow, but as the years pass, their portfolio starts to grow faster than they can save. By the time they're in their 50s, their investments are growing by more than their yearly contributions. This is when wealth building feels different. You're not pushing the car up the hill anymore. The car is rolling on its own. You just keep steering. This shift is what makes wealth sustainable. You no longer rely on cutting every expense. You no longer rely only on raises or side hustles. You've built a system that compounds quietly in the background. This is also when your choices expand. At 100,000, you feel relief. At 500,000, you feel freedom. At $1 million, you start thinking bigger. Maybe you want to cut back to part-time work. Maybe you want to start your own business. Maybe you want to retire early and move to a cabin in the Rockies. Or maybe you just want to keep working, but without the constant fear of losing your paycheck. In North America, financial independence is often seen as retiring early and moving to Florida or Arizona, but that's not the only version of freedom. For some, it's the ability to work remotely and travel across Canada in a van. For others, it's paying off student loans and finally sleeping at night without anxiety. The point is that once your money starts working for you, you get to choose. You decide what your rich life looks like, and you don't have to apologize for it. Think of a couple in Seattle who both work demanding jobs. Once they hit their first 100,000, they started feeling safer. By the time they reached 300,000, they made a decision. They would both cut back to 4-day work weeks. They gave up a little income, but they gained time with their kids. That was their version of wealth. Or consider a retiree in Florida. He didn't start investing until his 40s. He wasn't chasing millions. He just wanted peace of mind. By the time he was 65, compounding had turned his steady contributions into a comfortable retirement fund. Now he spends his mornings fishing instead of stressing over bills. The first 100,000 is the hardest part. But beyond it, the journey is not just easier, it's more rewarding. Your money becomes a partner. It grows while you sleep. It protects you from emergencies. It gives you options you never imagined before. So the question now is clear. You know why the first 100,000 matters. You know the system to get there. You know the traps to avoid. And you know what life looks like beyond that milestone. The only thing left is this. What should you do today to start your journey on the passive path? Let's wrap it all up with some clear, actionable lessons you can use right now.